Okay, so I have a lot of friends who want to put out books, and because I'm the resident book nerd, they're always asking me about the different types of publishing that you can do. So I thought I would make a video here so that I can just send them this video and they can stop asking me. When you're publishing a book, most people think about traditional publishing. This is the old school way of publishing a book, just like you would get a record deal with, I don't know, Interscope or Atlantic, and you would get signed. Typically, when you get a deal, you get paid for that deal. And then it's the job of the publisher in this case, just like it would be a record label, it's the job of the publisher to distribute the book. And that's what a lot of people think of when they think of like doing a major book. And those are the types of books that you typically see in bookstores, traditionally published books. And there are five big publishing houses. They're called the Big Five. And let's see if I can think of those offhand. We have Penguin Random House, which is the biggest. We have Simon and Schuster. We have Macmillan. We have Hachette. And we have, who was the fifth one? HarperCollins. HarperCollins. So with all those big five, they own essentially certainly the entire American book market, but most of the rest of the world as well. There are other independent ones, but these big five own the most, the largest share, because they also have all these little subsidiaries in different imprints, right? These little mini record labels, these imprints within within the bigger brands. And so when you get a traditional book deal, it's a long series of negotiations and a long series of essentially pitches and interviews in order to get this book deal. And so the first thing that you would need to have with this book is you need to have an agent. To get a traditionally published book, you need an agent. And just to get an agent, you have to pitch different agents with your ideas, and then the agent has to think that your idea is good enough that they can go and sell your book to a publisher. So that's what I did the first time I wrote a book, and I pitched my agent. And I can talk in a different video about how I got the agent specifically, and that's a different conversation, but just know that I had to find the agent, convince the agent to work with me, and then work with the agent to write a proposal for the book that would then go to the publishers. Then the publishers would decide whether or not to buy the book. Your book can go on auction, and you are essentially pitching multiple publishers for the rights to buy your book. And then they give you a deal based on whatever they think it's worth, based on whichever the way the wind is blowing, and what your lucky stars say. So my first deal was for $165K with Penguin Random House, or Perigee, which is like a sub-brand, an imprint of Penguin Random House. So that's how that went. That seems cool. It's cool to get 165K, but what they don't tell you is that, one, that's actually a pretty good first advance. Most people don't get deals like that, and so I would expect to get even less. And knowing that, there's a lot that goes into writing a book, and since they give you that advance over several years, it's like you're really getting paid in small increments for something that will take you a few years to put out. When you publish traditionally, it's going to take you, between getting an agent and getting the book on shelves, it might take you 3 to 5 years just to get that book out. No kidding. And it's a slow process. And so when you're getting paid, if it takes you 3 years to get that book out, you have to divide whatever you're getting paid by 3, right? So if they're paying you 100K, well, it's really 33K a year. And that's before you have to pay your agent. Your agent's going to get 15%, and that's before taxes. So for me, 165, let's just say call it 20 to be generous. To my agent, now we're talking, 145, somewhere in there, 145, 150 with taxes. Maybe take another 40% off, 30 to 40% off, depending on how that really, a book is personal income. And if you filter it through your business, you might be able to do some things with that. But as personal income on your taxes, yeah, it's a lot. So you might be walking away with essentially 80 of your original 160, and it's over 3 or 4 years getting the book out, so it starts to look not as good. And when you publish traditionally, that publishing house owns all of your publishing rights. Essentially, they own the copyright of the book, and they basically own the royalties. I mean, you will probably get a 90-10 split with a major publisher first deal, and they get the 90 and you get the 10. And basically what that means is for every dollar that comes in, they get 90 cents, you get 10 cents, And that 10 cents has to be used to pay back your advance, because you won't see any royalties until you pay back that advance. So you need to sell tens of thousands of copies if you get a very big advance in order to be able to pay back that advance and then make some royalties on it. Otherwise, you'll never make any money on the actual sales of the book. You'll only get what the advance is. So that's traditional, and it has its benefits. The benefits are you will get some pretty good distribution sometimes. The drawbacks are you don't own the IP anymore, which is not great for you, especially as an entrepreneur. It's slow. It's pretty slow. You can make a lot more if you do it yourself, but that requires some knowledge. So anyway, that's traditional publishing. The second one would be working with some sort of, I guess really, if you look at it, the other side of it, the complete other side of it is self-publishing. Self-publishing is just, dude, going on Amazon and you can throw up a book on there. And I mean, technically you can throw up a book and have it on there as an ebook maybe the next day, like within 24 hours. And then you can start doing Amazon, and they call it Kindle Direct Publishing, KDP. And you can throw that up on there and you can have a soft cover or a hardcover book like in a few days, printed out. And it's amazing. I mean, the barrier to entry is completely zero now. So really there's no excuse to not publish, but what you should know about self-publishing is that while there are a lot of drawbacks to traditionally publishing, where you're working with someone or you're working with one of these old houses, when you have to do it all yourself, you realize how much there is to really make a great book. It's not just writing the book. It's way more than writing the book. It is writing it and writing it well. It is editing it, and the edits are so important. It's designing not just a great cover, but also a layout, which most people don't know how to do. It's little things like doing the indexing, depending on what type of book it is, and or getting just the right images for inside the book and inside the interior. And then it's packaging it, it's distributing it, it's how to get it up on Amazon or Barnes & Noble or Target, on the websites, how to get it into retail if you want it in retail, how to deal with different manufacturing processes and speeds and prime shipping, and and then also how to turn it into an actual business asset, how to make it into something that generates money for your business. So all this stuff, it's like there's a lot of pieces to it. And a great book, a well-produced, professionally published book is going to have at least 7 to 10 different professionals working on it from the time it is a thought to the time it is put out in the world. At least. I mean, probably more, especially if you're talking a traditional house. But just with the main people that need to touch it to make it great, 7 to 10 people need to be on that book. And so for self-publishing, unless you can do most of that stuff yourself, or you're willing to learn, which takes time and you can do it, but you're willing to learn, then it's not going to be a great product. It's much better to have a poorly written book, or book that's not done well, does more damage, in my opinion, than no book at all. If you're worried about not having a book and you're like, well, I'll just produce a mediocre one, don't do it. Because it's like saying, well, look, the world doesn't need another podcast. Don't do it. If you don't have anything unique to say it, and it's not done really, really well, and the book doesn't feel professional, it will actually detract from your brand. That's my opinion. But we've all read books or seen books that are clearly self-published, and it feels cheap. It feels like a DIY project. And especially if you're someone who is using the book as an extension of your brand, you want it to be as polished as possible. So with self-publishing, unless you really know what you're doing, it's hard. And I am speaking just from my own experience, because I've done traditional publishing, I've done self-publishing, and I've done basically independent publishing, or where I've worked with another agency to put together the book, and I've seen how that process works. But there's different ways to do it. And this is why I started a publishing company too, because I'd been through the process so many times. I'm like, I like this part, but I don't like that part. I like this element, but not that part. And so with New Wave Press, which is my company, we take the best elements of traditional publishing, which is like the talent. Penguin has amazing editors, and pretty good designers too. If you get the great ones, you get some good designers and some good editors. And so we just hire those people, but then we allow for a structure where our authors can retain their IP, retain the ownership of their property, and get much better royalties and right away. And so we kind of just have taken the best elements of both and made our own model with it. But that's just because I was so annoyed by having to go through all these different types of processes that weren't quite fitting what I wanted as an entrepreneurial author, as an author who wants to use books to push a message and also to build a business. You want to have a specific type of infrastructure set up for the book, not something where someone else owns all your content, and not something where you have to figure everything out yourself, because it's a multi-skill project with ongoing support that's needed. So that's my thoughts on books. If you have any questions, drop them below. This is what I love talking about. It's fun for me. See you tomorrow. Peace.